The protagonist is the core of any video game. They allow the players to interact with their surroundings, explore their environment, and traverse the story however the game allows. There are countless protagonists in all of gaming, and that they fit into several different categories. The one that we're going to talk about in this video is the silent protagonists. These characters are ones that remain, mostly silent throughout the game, and can vary when it comes to personality. Let's talk about what makes a character a silent protagonist, and the different types of them. If you enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing since it helps me out a ton. Let's get into it. As I mentioned, I'll be using examples to show the different types of silent protagonists, 5 specifically. Basic rundown of them are characters who are often used to make the player feel like they are in full control of the game, since they often get more freedom than other characters. Let's start off by talking about who is probably the most famous silent protagonist, Link from the Legend of Zelda series. For the sake of me not having to look through every game he's made an appearance in, I'm only going to be talking about his Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom appearances. There are some in-universe theories as to why Link is silent. One is that he takes his job protecting Zelda seriously and that he won't speak out since he works for some pretty important people. That is just a theory, but an interview with Miyamoto confirms a reason for his silence. This interview with GameZone states that Miyamoto says he wants the player to feel as if they are Link. That's a large reason for many silent protagonists, but the thing about Link is that he's often seen as emotionless to other characters. This is what we'll call a surface level protagonist. The other characters in the game see Link the same way we do, a valiant knight who often keeps to himself. Link is one of those characters where he doesn't really have a personality. When it comes to some playable characters, the players can choose how they act, like things they say, and what tones they convey. But Link is set in his ways. You don't choose different dialogue options, you can only decide where you go in the game in what order. The statement from Miyamoto makes sense in line with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, since the open world does provide plenty of freedom, and the player can do what they want in any order. But his lack of distinctive traits adds to that idea as well. However, as the story progresses, we see Zelda have one-sided conversations with Link in some of the memories, where she alludes to him telling her previous things. Then, in the final memory of the Champions Ballad, the champions are making small talk, and Link is in on it, but silently. So as the game progresses, you can see sort of an invisible personality form in Link, which is similar to the other examples that we'll go through. But it's weird that Link starts off as a pretty nothing character personality-wise, but then eventually we see something, but we don't get a lot. So like I said, Link does develop a bit of an invisible personality as you get to the end of the story. However, you don't really see what that personality is. But Joker from Persona 5 has a similar situation, and I think it's a very interesting case. Joker has a multitude of dialogue options throughout the game, even verbally spoken dialogue in some of the animated cutscenes. This is probably in part to the fact that each Persona game has an anime based off of it. Joker speaks in that show, and several of those clips are used in the game. For the most part, the things he says in the show are some of the direct dialogue options that you can choose in the game. Joker is a bit of an anomaly to me because in the games, he doesn't have a clear-cut personality, because you can change what you say. You can say something witty in one interaction, something, really profound in another, and then something completely neutral. However, in the show, Joker does. In the Persona 5 animation, Ren, Joker's canon name, is shown as a more witty, sarcastic, and funny guy. This can be picked up on, as if you watch the show relatively carefully, you can see that in a lot of the parts where there would be a dialogue option in the game, he picks the witty remark or joke answer instead of the more serious one. So his show version is, for a lack of a better term, a Joker. But that doesn't mean the game version is. Joker's game counterpart is so interesting because Persona 5 and all the Persona games really give free reign to the players in a way that other open world games don't, because Persona 5 isn't open world, but it's open-ended, I would say. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are open world games where you can do things in any order. There is a set quest line, at the 4 corners of the map. You can take your time going to each of them. You can do whatever you want on the way there and when you get there. But every interaction has a set path. You can't change your conversation with someone, and everything is going to play out the same way. Persona 5 is linear in the fact that you have set time limits for things, and there's punishments for not completing them. Like, if you don't complete the deadline, you lose. But that's kind of what brings the real freedom. You can do these time-sensitive things whenever in that allotted time. And then you can do whatever you want around the city. You'll have 20-something days to complete the palace and send the calling card. But you can just, go get a burger or go hang out with someone and not go to the palace that day. You have complete control over this person's life. And the character interactions are all different. Because depending on what dialogue options you pick, a character will react a different way. So, in summary, the player has full control of Joker. But that can make a lot of players conflicted. There are two ways to view Joker in the scenario. Some see him like Link, where Link is a pre-established character where you are controlling Link. He is not you, he is his own guy. But a lot of people see Joker as themselves, and that can be helped by choosing the dialogue options. You get to pick what you would say in the scenario, or how you want to interact with this person. Joker doesn't have a set personality in the games, it's just whatever you make it. So that can lead to a lot of strong disagreements in the community on certain characters and how they play the game. A character like Futaba is polarizing since someone's thoughts and actions toward her in the game are driven by their playstyle. So in comparison to Link, Joker is a blank slate because he doesn't have a predetermined personality. Red from the Pokemon series is a bit of a mixture of both Joker and Link, because I would say Joker is on the most non-silent end of the spectrum that we're talking about here. Red never speaks. There's never any dialogue options for Red. And we're talking games only. He's in shows like Generations and things like that, but they're not consistent, so we're just talking the game. Red is given an invisible personality, however. Other people call him determined, serious, focused, and a smart trainer, but he never says anything to achieve that. So it's sort of implied that Red does talk in these interactions, we just never see it. And this is all just kind of generic dialogue that the NPCs give to a strong trainer. In Persona 5, like I said, a character's dialogue back to you will depend on what you say, and that's not the same for Red. But Red has more of a set personality. Red is not in-universe silent like Link. He is silent just to us like Joker. However, his dialogue that he receives is not different depending on what he does. While Pokemon does have a linear story, the player can see themselves as Red, since most playthroughs will be completely different. Different teams will be used for each playthrough, and that will change how someone perceives the game. Plus, in the games where you play as Red, you can actually do the gyms out of order for the most part, so that can add to the freedom as well. When I play a Pokemon game, I do see myself as the protagonist, but I don't see myself as Red, if that makes any sense. Red is weird in the sense that with the battles and the gameplay, he does different things depending on who's playing, different teams, different moves, whatever. But in the, dialogue character sense, he does the same for everyone. So it's tough to see myself as myself in that regard, and that part's just Red, but I'm the person in the battles. It's a weird kind of mixture. Red is playable in many games, in Red, Blue, Green, Yellow, Fire Red, and Leaf Green. But what really throws a wrench into this is Red makes appearances as a non-playable character in Gold, Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Crystal, Sun Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and Let's Go. You can fight Red in these games, and he is seen as a stoic veteran who knows what he's doing. When you meet him on Mount Silver, he doesn't say anything. You guys just fight, but you can tell he's a strong trainer. He doesn't say a word to you, like I said, and he also doesn't have Blue there to portray some dialogue. In those Sun and Moon appearances, he has Blue with him, which, even though Red doesn't talk in those interactions, Blue kind of speaks on his behalf, but he doesn't have that in Gold, Silver, and the remakes. So to recap there, Red is just a mixture of Joker and Link. Where in the gameplay loop, he's like Joker, where you can decide what to do. I mean, it's also a turn-based RPG, just like Persona. But in the dialogue and character set, he is just like Link, where every interaction is the same. The next character we're going to talk about is Frisk from Undertale. However, I have not played Undertale. I cannot give a reasonable look at this character without knowing the context behind everything. So, to talk about him is going to be the man who gave me the idea for this video, my good friend and fellow YouTuber, Gold.
Hey there everybody. As Emlord said, my name is Gold, and I'm here to talk about Frisk from Undertale. Frisk is an interesting character, as not only are they silent, but they have very few dialogue options, mostly amounting to a yes or a no. However, Frisk's actions in Undertale have pretty extreme effects on the world around them. Like, seriously, there are 93 different endings to Undertale. This really gives into the main theme of Undertale: your actions have consequences. And therefore, mixing that with an entirely silent main character gives a really blank slate that we can project ourselves onto. I mean, it isn't even revealed that Frisk has an actual name until the very end of the true pacifist ending. Until then, you're under the assumption that the name you picked at the beginning of the game was the name of Frisk. But well, that's a whole story for another time. Frisk's actions are really what are interpreted by the NPCs in Undertale. They are called kind, brave, determined, or even a monster. It's almost like Frisk is simply a conduit for how you yourself are playing and have little to no character themselves, which is really interesting to think that then we can relate more to a character like this. Frisk is an amazing example of a character that almost has no personality or character, yet shines in the ability to be so malleable to fit exactly how you want to play. Alrighty, that's it from me, and as always, mine has been Gold, and I'll see you later.
So if we had Joker on the one end of the spectrum as the most non-silent silent protagonist, then the Knight from Hollow Knight is on the complete opposite side. While he is most similar to Link, he does differ a lot from him. The Knight literally has no personality. He is a Hollow Knight. He's a shell that the Pale King created in his attempt to create the pure vessel. And while he actually is a pure vessel, he doesn't go through the process that the fake Hollow Knight does, the one that you fight. That Hollow Knight seems insane when you fight him in the Black Egg, as he's trying to end his suffering. He clearly has some sort of personality, but that might just be, him losing his mind. But there's clearly something there. But when you fight Pure Vessel in Godhome, he's more stoic and doesn't freak out like the space fight. He is like you, no personality seen. The player has no traits, he's just the shade in the vessel and there's nothing else to it. No emotions or dialogue in the game mean you can't relate to anything that he does. So when I play through Hollow Knight, I see myself as playing as the Knight. Hollow Knight's just gameplay, and that's not a bad thing. Hollow Knight's my favorite game of all time. But you don't get that emotional connection to other people. And while it seems that the NPCs get connections to you, it seems to be completely one-sided. He is probably the most silent protagonist because there's nothing to him. He is just a placeholder for the player. So now let's take a look at this spectrum. We have Joker on one end as a character whose interactions change depending on how the player decides to act. Joker's personality is completely determined by the player, which can lead to more immersion, since you, the player, can see yourself as Joker because you can do whatever you want. On the other end, you have the Knight, a blank slate with no thoughts, emotions, or anything. He is very hard to relate to because everyone has emotions, everyone feels something except for him. He is just a placeholder. Then you have these three in the middle who are combinations of both aspects of the Knight and Joker. So the silent protagonist is really an interesting trope. All 5 of these characters set out for the same goal, to immerse the player in the game, but they all do it differently. Someone like Link gives you a little bit of personality, but every interaction is predetermined. There's no difference between a player's interactions. So, a lot of people just see Link as Link. But, Joker can be you. I've said that probably 8 million times in this video, but it's still true. If you enjoyed it, it would be great if you like and subscribed. Check out Gold 2, his link will be in the description. Let me know in the comments who your favorite silent protagonist is and what were your thoughts on the video. I hope you all enjoyed, and remember to take it easy.